Hi guys, welcome to the Pseudo Bitsian, and today we have Ms. Samiksha with us, and she has a back. Just to give you a glimpse about her profile, she was studying in Bits, then she was in ISB, and right now she's working in Flipkart. So hi Samiksha, welcome to our channel.
Hi, Shubham.
Hi. So Samiksha, just wanted to know from you. You have been into Bits, also one of the most prestigious institutes in the country. Then you've been into ISB. So what was that major difference? That one thing, not I would not call it a difference, but one thing you will miss at Bits and one thing you will miss at ISB.
So if I have to compare BITS and ISB, like personally for me, it was a completely different experience.
Yeah.
It's the first time I actually moved out of my home and I was exploring new things. I was meeting a lot of new people. So it was a completely different experience. I was surrounded by some of the most talented people I've ever met. And whereas when I talk about ISB, after working for about 3 years in a corporate, I was more focused and I knew what I had to do and I knew the kind of things I want to explore. So it was not like a new experience, it was a more focused experience and I was able to explore a lot of different things. So one thing that I would miss about BITS would be the energy
Okay.
of around me. And one thing that I will miss about ISP is the kind of events that we put up. So
Okay. Nice. So right now, Samiksha, you are more of rated to. You have been into computer science field, and right now also you are working into product marketing. I just wanted to know, like in a layman language, what do you understand by product marketing? Oh, sorry, not product marketing to be exact. Maybe what do you understand by product management as a whole? Yeah.
so basically product management, if you contrast it with being a software developer, let's say, because you brought up how I have a computer science background. So initially, I was working as a software developer, and I used to focus on how to make good products, how to make them in a way that the user is able to relate to them, use it very efficiently, and is able to do what he intends to do. So it essentially just making good products. But as a product manager, you have to understand what to make. So what is it that the customer wants? So what is the product that the customer wants so you have to conceptualize that first. So for that, I think as a product manager, it becomes very important to have user empathy, to understand what your user really wants and then build something for him. So I think in that way, both of these things are different.
Okay. Okay. So if I may ask you, like, when you talk about product management? So of course, I think there are two different parts of it. One is the physical product when you talk about. One is the software product when you talk about. So when
Right.
somebody says, I am a product manager, so is he talking about
Right.
both, or he or she can be a part of only one unit? Like what?
Usually people are part of either one of those. So it's very rare. Like if I give you an example of, let's say, a firm like Flipkart. So at Flipkart, I'm a software product manager. So in that sense, I would be taking care of, let's say, one of the components of the Flipkart website itself. So search here would be a product, or let's say the checkout or the payments would be one product. There can be multiple products as such.
Yeah.
If you have to combine both of these things, like hardware and software both, I think Apple would be a very good example of such a company, which has product managers which take care of both physical products and it has a software component attached to it. So I think in
Okay.
that sense, it depends from company to company and different roles that they offer. Product management can have completely different flavors in different companies, as I've noticed.
Okay. So will it be a wrong question to ask? Like, if what is more challenging? Maybe a software-based product or maybe hardware-based product? Is it right question
I
or?
I don't think it's right to compare both of these things because you need completely different type of skill set in both the things. In software, I'm more aware of the software product management bit, and I would not like to comment on how difficult managing hardware products are. So if I talk about only software, you need to have certain skills. You need to have, as I earlier also mentioned, you need to have user empathy. You need to understand technology to the sense that what is feasible and what is not. You should be able to identify that this is not just a random idea that I want to implement. It is also feasible, and how it can be actually rolled out to the public and rolled out to my customer. So that becomes really important as a software product manager. I'm sure hardware product management has its own challenges, but I would not be the right person to comment on that.
Okay, okay, no issue. So my next question is something linked to this only. So what it takes as per you to be a great product manager?
All right. So I think good communication skills is a must. So you need to be able to communicate what you want to make. You need to be, first of all, in order to gauge the interest of what your user wants, you need to be able to communicate well with the user itself. So first of all, you would gauge the requirements, collect the requirements from the user. So for that, you need to be good at what is how you're communicating with them. Then you have to communicate to your technical team to get it basically built into a full-fledged product, and finally to market it again to the customer and to reach out your target customer base. I think again communication becomes really important. So I think at the core of it, it's about communication. It's about good technology skills. Like you should be able to know, as I previously also mentioned, what is feasible, what is not, what can be accomplished through technology, and how I can expand the realms, how I can maybe use technology in terms of, let's say, data science or machine learning, and how I can leverage technology to build the product and make it better and improve it over time for the customer. I think a good know-how of technology is important. User empathy is also definitely more important. So you cannot be thinking about how you are a user and how you will use the product. You need to understand how your end customer will use the product. So in that sense, user empathy becomes really important.
Okay, so like let's say if I don't know coding, so can I even think of entering into product management?
Oh, definitely. So it does not mean that you need to understand coding or how to exactly make the products. It is more about understanding technology in general. So I think there are multiple ways in which people are associated with technology. You can be good at understanding technology and how it can be leveraged even without knowing how to code. But it becomes really easy for someone who has been into programming and coding to understand the depths of it. So I think that makes it easier, but it's not a hardcore requirement, I would say.
Okay, nice. Thank you on this. And next question would be, recently Flipkart and Amazon started with this food delivery model. So I would just like to discuss something on this. Like, what are your take on this? Like, is it really a good, healthy competition they're trying to put on, or it is something out of fear that okay, we don't want to miss on market, looking at the COVID situation? And what all do you think?
So I think this step is definitely not sudden. Both these companies have been trying to get into the food delivery business for quite some time now. And if you talk about competition as such, it's a $2 billion industry in India. And
Yeah.
think I think there is enough space to be, in fact, more players in this industry, because the current, if you look at the current industry and the kind of players that are in it, so if you talk about, let's say, Swiggy or Zomato, they're just scratching the surface. They're only catering to tier 1 cities. And with Flipkart and Amazon entering this business, with already have them having a stronghold in tier 2, tier 3 cities, I think it's going to make the whole landscape very interesting.
Mhm.
the the first thing and the most important thing in this regard is having the operational capability and resources, which I think both Flipkart and Amazon have. They already have their two-wheeler fleets in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well as tier 1 cities. So it becomes really important uh, to basically utilize it to its full potential by venturing into new businesses. So I think it's definitely a very good step. It's also very relevant during the current times because as people are confined within their homes, especially like right now because of COVID, I think it becomes important for e-commerce companies to venture into new spaces and talk about new categories and how they can serve their customers in different ways, because they might not be able to leverage whatever operational capability they have to deliver the kind of products they earlier used to deliver. So one of the cons that I see here is breaking the habit, because that will become really difficult. So people who are already aware of the food delivery system, who are current customers, are very accustomed to, let's say, Swiggy and Zomato, and for them to try out a new service altogether would be a challenge. So it will be challenging for these companies as well to take the market share from the existing companies. But I think if they cater to the market and people who have never shopped, who have shopped online on Flipkart and Amazon and have not got food delivered, I think for those, if they target specifically those customers and they target tier 2 cities, I think it will become really interesting, this whole space.
Yeah, I think of course it makes sense, Samiksha. So next question is linked to something like related to something like this only. Like if I may ask, in a situation like this COVID, where like profitability and revenue has like dropped down drastically, right? And so even like if you talk about particularly about e-commerce, even Amazon India and Flipkart has been like looking after profitability since years. So is it the right time to burn such huge amount of money or invest such huge amount of money in this new venture? What do you?
So basically, you were catering to a certain set of categories earlier, but now because of COVID, you are not allowed to go through the entire spread of categories that you were initially catering to. So you have all your operational capabilities intact. You have the entire supply chain management and all of your skill and the capabilities there. So why not leverage it for something that is very relevant for customers right now? So as far as money is concerned, I think there's no other way for e-commerce companies to move forward if they don't uh, basically transform the models just a little bit pertaining to that situation. Because if you just think about not investing any money into new ventures, uh, just rolling back to whatever you were doing before COVID, I think you will not be able to survive in the longer run. It also has to do something with how the customer behavior itself is changing. So if
Yeah.
the customer behavior itself is changing over time, the companies really need to adapt and look at new ventures, and that will definitely need more investment. But I think it will be a profitable business if you look at the longer run. Definitely.
Okay. So you did your master's from ISB, Samiksha. So what's your definition of a sustainable leadership, if I ask you in particular?
Right. So for me, a sustainable leader should have certain skill sets. So if I have to mention skill sets, that person should be adaptive. Especially during times like these, we have realized that people who do not change, people and organizations in general, who are not changing themselves or adapting themselves to the new situations, those people will not be able to survive in the longer run. So I think a sustainable leader needs to be able to adapt to new situations, change himself, and motivate people around to adapt to change and to be comfortable with it. So I think that is one of the most important skills.
Yes.
If I look at another skill, it would be inclusion of diversity. So in that sense, like a manager or a leader in general should be able to identify what are the different resources, what are the different capabilities of people coming from diverse backgrounds, what they bring to the table. I think having a respect and understanding of uh, the diversity, and not just diversity in terms of the demographics, diversity in terms of the kind of skill sets they have, diversity in terms of their thought processes in general. I think to be cognizant of that and to be able to leverage that is another one of the most important skill sets. But I think if you look at it very objectively, sustainable leadership is not just about having certain skill sets. It takes a lot of courage. So in the end, I think it's about how confident the person is, how confident that leader is in his capabilities to lead people, and that in turn comes from how self-aware a person is. So
Yeah.
if you're more self-aware, you would be able to be more confident in terms of how you're leading things and how you're helping people around you. And I think that would make you, that courage and that self confidence will make you a great sustainable leader.
Thank you, Samisha, for shedding light on this question. My one of the last questions would be, आपने बहुत सारे interviews face किए होंगे, including ISB, including bachelors and bits. So, any particular instance you would like to mention from all those interviews कि यार वो interview मजेदार था?
Actually, if I have to mention a specific instance, it would be, there are multiple professional interviews that I've faced. So most of these professional interviews have a regular structure in terms of what kind of questions they ask and how they want to go about it. But I think if I have to put some interesting interview, that would be my interview with the theater club that I had to give. So basically, to induct students, they ask them to give an interview. So they ask them to perform, and they ask them to uh, basically perform on a random situation that they give at that point of time, and to tell them about how passionate you are about theater and why you want to do this. And I think that interview was one of the most interesting interviews that I've given. So it was more like an audition, but uh, the random situation that was given to me caught me completely off guard, and I had to. The audition piece that I was doing was something very funny, and I had to do a lot of funny lines. But the part where I had to do an impromptu act, they asked me to cry, and that suddenly caught me off guard, and but I was able to do it. So I think that was one of the most interesting things I've done, and I've cried in an interview to actually get that feeling out. And especially after doing a very funny piece before that, it became very difficult, but I'm glad I was able to do it. I think you also have a background in theater, right?
Yeah. So I was basically my schooling was from Pilani. So I did my 3 years schooling from Pilani. So in Pilani, I was on my theaters in Birla Public School, Pilani, if you must have heard.
I have.
Yeah, so I was like continuous for 2 years. I was awarded the best actor of my batch, and after that, life happened and acting got over. I don't know what happened. So anyway, but thank God I did not use TikTok. So so
Coming up big these days. Like people who were earlier very averse to the idea of getting on TikTok are also like thinking about exploring the idea. So I think that's a win for the platform, if nothing
yeah.
else.
So right now, like when you will be back to Bangalore, will you be again be trying for acting or so?
So I'm thinking about getting into the theater scene at Bangalore. So I have quite a few friends who are already active in the
Okay.
scene. Let's see how much time I have along with the work that I should figure out.
So my last question to you, Samiksha. Often people confuse happiness with being successful.
Right.
So I want to ask you, what does really matter to you, being professionally successful or being happy?
I think definitely at the end of the day, being happy is the most important thing. So you can have all the professional success in the world, and if you're not uh, sleeping with peace at night, I think it's not worth anything. Especially like after this pandemic hit, and people are stuck in their homes, they have been realizing, a lot of people around have realized that in the end, it's all about the connections you make and the happiness that these small things in life give you, and it's never about professional success.
Yeah.
With that being said, professional success is very important, and
Yeah.
different sense of sadness about yourself. But definitely, I would never trade it with real happiness.
So only one thing that makes you real happy. Last question. That
Painting makes me really happy.
okay. So we would really love to share your paintings in our link description too.
I'll do that.
So thanks,
So,
Samiksha. Thanks a lot for this interview, and it was really great knowing you. And guys, please do like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any questions for me, for Samiksha, please do comment below, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.